Hello, and welcome back to part 6 in this series of creating a database using Google's app scripts. And in part 6, we're going to create the function to assign to the delete button here. So how does the delete function work before we continue on of actually coding the delete function? Is you first have to search for something in your database. And at the previous video, you can search for anything and it will pull it out and put it into this sheet here. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing is you're going to search for something. So as I say, you don't know the invoice number. You just know customer's name is Dave. And you hit search. And now we got Dave. The delete function then will use this column here. So now you say you want to delete invoice 1010 for this person, Dave. Now you go back to your input and then you put in 1010. Right, hit return. But first, see 1010 is right here. It's line 9, row 9. Let's go back. Let's hit delete. And found it. 1010 found and deleted. Go back to the database. And now we see it's gone. So it's going to re-put that back in by hitting Control Z a couple times. There it is, so it's back in. So how do we create this delete function? Well, that's a good question, because now we're going to go through that. So the first thing is we need to create a function called delete. And then this function here is going to be in our main code.gs file. We're not going to create a separate function for it as we did with the clear and the get invoice number and auto date, as you see here. So the first thing we need to do, like I said before, create the function. We're going to name it delete. That's going to be the function name. Now, the first thing is we have to grab whatever value we put in this field, which is E4. Same thing that we did for our search button. So we'll go ahead and we're going to do that. So we're going to call it name. Input, we're going to fill the name variable with what we find in E4 of the input form. And we're going to grab the value. So same thing we've been doing a lot before. So once we get that, then we know what to delete. In this case, it's always going to be the invoice number. So next, we have to grab all the data that's in this database, like a glob. We have to put it all into a variable or an array, whatever you want to call it. So that's done, again, using this line here. So we have a variable called data dbase, which is going to grab all the contents of the database right here. So we know it's a database sheet. And this function here, get data range, is the function that we're going to use to grab the whole entire database sheet. And here, this is what it is. Returns a range, function equivalent to creating a range bounded by A1 and last column and last row. So we're going to grab the whole database and we're going to use get values, because we're not getting one value, we're getting a bunch of items in that database. We're not just getting E4, we're getting everything in the database. That's why I have to use values, plural, and put it all into this variable called dbase. So now we have everything in the dbase. So after that, what do we need to do? Well, we need to search, but what we're going to search on, we need to search on E4. So how do we search? So that means we have to go through the database that's in this variable. And so that's done with a for loop, right? So we're going to do a for, we're going to iterate it. And then we have to go to what? We're going to go through the for loop until the end of the database. So we're going to need to find the length of the database. And then of course we have to increment it. And that's done with our handy dandy for loop, right? That in there. And then we need self another. There. So now we have our for loop, right? So the for will be I until I is less than the length of the database. And we increment it. Then what we have to do, we have to search. So we have to first test something, right? So we're going to do an if statement on name. So if the database row equals name, then do something, right? So that's what we want to do. So that's going to be this following set of commands. So again, if database row I, column 2 equals name, then we're going to go enter this if statement. And then what are we going to do? Well, we need to store this value I into a variable because that's the row that we're going to delete. All right. And so that's going to be done with creating a new variable. And we're going to create a new variable. So now we're going to do that. So we find our invoice number, and then we're going to take the I, and that's the row we're going to delete. And so how's that done? Well, there is a function for that. It's called delete row. But we're going to delete it from where? We need to delete it from the database, our database sheet. So in our case, our database is called DB, right here. So DB, we use this function called delete row and the value of that. All right. And now we want to just return a status of what was done. So the customer, so the user knows that it's completed. And we'll just go do a web toast, which is going to flash something up on the screen, found and delete it. And here we're going to put the name, what was in the name. In this case, it's going to be the invoice number, found and deleted. And then after that, right, we want to clear whatever value we put in here. So after we're done with it, we want to get rid of this and blank it all out again. And that, of course, is done, which we've done before, plenty of times before. We're using the clear content of what? Of cell E4 in the input form. So we're going to go to input form. We're going to grab what's in E4, and then we're going to clear it. Done. But now we have to break out of this. So how do we break out of a for loop or an if statement to say that we're done so we don't go through the whole bloody thing? Well, that's easy enough. Let's call a break. All right. So there we are. Now we're break. So let's go ahead and save this. Where's the syntax there? Line 106. Where's line 106? Oh, I think we got one too many. So we got here this. We need this. Let's go like this. Let's see if we can save it. So now we did. So let's go ahead and put a value in here. We got it. Let's delete 114. Let's delete 111, that is. Let's delete 111. 1011. Hit enter. So now we have the value in there. Go back to our script. Make sure we select delete. And now we're going to hit run. Found 1011, which we wanted to delete. Cleared it. Now let's look at our database and see what happened. Well, it didn't. It actually cleared the one above. Why is that? Let's get this. Let's get the 110 back in, or the 111 back in. Let's go check our database. So now we have the 110 back in. All right. Let's do something here. Let's go here. And after we find it, let's do hello gg logger dot log. Hit save. Put this back here. So we're going to go delete 110. It should be in row 10 of the database. Go back to our invoice. Put in 1011 because that's what we want to delete. Let's go back here and let's hit run. See what happens here. So see, okay, so found it in. So I was what? 9. But in reality, it actually was in 10. So let's do Control Z here. Back to our database. Deleted this one. Well, why is that? Let's put the 0 here again. The 1. Let's do this. So in our script, this is an array. So an array starts with what? 0. So when it iterates through, it found it, I started at 0, but it found it at when I was incremented up to 9. So let's take a look at that. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, all right? So it was incremented up to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that aligns to row 9 of the sheet. So the sheet starts with 1. The array starts with 0. So we need to go to what? 10 to delete invoice 1011. So that means we have to add 1. We need to add 1 here. All right. Save. Let's delete this. So now let's go ahead and delete 1011 again. We're going to our input. Put in 1011. Don't need that. Go here. Hit run. All right, so it's still 9, but we added 1 to 9. So it makes 10. So we're just going to delete row 10 of the database. And it did. There you go. So it deleted row 10 of the database. So that's why we had to add 1, because the sheet starts with 1 and the array starts with 0. So we want to delete the number here. We want to delete based on these numbers, not the array number. That's why we added 1. I said it's all fine and dandy. We're able to find the invoice and delete it from the database. But what if there's nothing in, or we type in the wrong number? So we type in, say, 1020, right? So let's go and see what happens. So we put in here, we put in 1020, hit the enter button, go back, make sure we're right proper function, we hit run, and nothing happens, right? But maybe we want some user feedback. So that's what we're going to do next. So let's give some user feedback if nothing is found. It's not going to say, we don't need to say it's the wrong number or something like that. It's just maybe to throw a message up says not found. So how do we do that? Well, let's go back to our database. So we get all our input into the variable. We search the whole thing, and we don't find anything. So that means what? We got to the last row, and the last row didn't even meet the criteria or what was put in here. So then know what we need to do. We need to find the last row of the database. So we're not going to use, so in that case, we can't use an else, because you can't do a Boolean function like this with an else. So we have to do a else if. And that's done with else space if. All right. And then what do we need to do? Well, we need to find the last row. So we need to know if I equals the last row. All right. We close that off. And then we got to complete our function. But we need to know what last row is. So we need to get that value. So we're going to create another variable up there that grabs the last row. Right? So which we have our variable here. We need to put something in that variable. And there it is. So now that's going to put in the row number. So again, the database sheet, and get the last row number, put it in last R. And now if I equals last R, then what? Let's say, well, we're just going to put in not found, right? We're going to put this in. We're going to say we didn't find it, so we're going to do that web toast crap. All right. And then what we want to do? Well, we want to clear E4 again, just like we did with the first in the first if. That we did here. All right. Now, and then after we're done with that, I want to do a break to get out of it and to get out of the function. So let's go ahead and attempt to run this and let's see what happens. So we're going to hit save. And then we're going to put in a value that we know is not in the database. Right, 1020. Put that back in. 1020. Let's go back to our, and we're going to run it and let's see what happens. What happens? We still didn't get anything. It still didn't clear it. So let's put some values in here and see what happens. Logger, not log. And we're going to put in I. See what that is. Do logger, not log, and we're going to put in last R. And let's run this again. So in here, we have this value still. Right, so we got this value, big value. Let's hit run. And never went into it. Why didn't it go into it? So let's go ahead and get out of the for loop. Put these two, copy, in here, and let's see what happens. Save, run. So 11 and 11. I equals 11, last row equals 11. But that's out of the for loop. So let's create an else statement. Let's say we put that stuff in there. I'll hit save. We still know that we still have that value there. And let's hit run. Let's see what happens. Oh, there we go. So I is 10 and R is 11. So we can confirm that. Go into the database and it's true. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do? We need a -1 from R. Let's put those two things back in there. Let's put that in there. Control S saves. Don't have to keep on hitting that. Let's do it again. All right. So did it find something? Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. And cleared it. So there. So there we go. So that works. And we're going to leave the else statement in here. Let's leave it in there. Control S. So that's pretty much our delete function. So next what we have to do, we have to go here, click this. So you can see I already signed it. It's all right. So we click this and we put in the word delete, a function name, and then we have it done here. So let's go ahead. Let's do a search here. Let's try this again. We're going to go DAVE. We'll do Dave. All right. We hit search. Comes here. Let's delete 1008. Should be, well, I was going to say it's actually going to be what, row 7? Actually, row 7. Let's see. So 1008. We go back to there. It's going to be row 7. So we have to make sure row 7 goes away. So we're going to put in 1008. Hit enter. No, that's not 8. That's 5. Hit enter. Let's hit delete. None was found. Go to database. And it's gone. There you have it. Now you have a way to delete something out of your database. Fantastic. So in our next video, we're going to do the update. An update's basically going to do the same thing. We're going to search and then find invoice number of the customer we want to update, put it in, build our update function, and then put that same value in there and hit the magic update button. So I hope you enjoyed this one. So everybody have a happy and healthy day, and we'll see you on the next one, which I guess is going to be part 7. the update button. Have a good day.